That night, the Russian commanders gathered in confidence, believing themselves untouchable. The atmosphere inside the base was filled with laughter, toasts, and music, a celebration meant to show that their control over the battlefield was unshakable. Generals and officers relaxed, unaware that only a few miles away a new kind of threat was moving toward them through the darkness. The illusion of invincibility, built on years of command, steel, and manpower, was about to collapse in a matter of minutes. Ukrainian reconnaissance units had already marked their location, and as the night deepened, 30 FPV drones took off in perfect formation. What followed was not a battle in the traditional sense, but a technological ambush that would redefine how modern warfare is understood. The arrogance of power often blinds those who hold it. Inside that Russian base, commanders spoke about victories and promotions, unaware that their every move had been tracked. They believed their stronghold, protected by layers of air defense, was beyond reach. But the Ukrainian strategy didn't depend on large missiles or tanks. It relied on precision, coordination, and timing, three things that do not need billions of rubles or massive infrastructure. When the first drone descended, no one inside the compound understood what was happening. The sound was faint, like an insect in the air, followed by an explosion that shook the building. Then came another and another until the entire base was consumed in chaos. Within seconds, the party turned into panic. Lights went out, and smoke filled the air. Commanders who had moments earlier raised their glasses now dove to the ground, scrambling for cover. The security systems failed to respond effectively because these FPV drones were flying low, fast, and unpredictably, bypassing conventional defenses. This was not just an airstrike, it was a demonstration of how agility and intelligence can outmatch brute strength. Each drone operated like a guided blade, cutting into the core of the Russian command network. Laughter turned to screams and order dissolved into confusion. What makes this moment so defining is not just the physical destruction it caused, but the psychological fracture it created. For months, Russian leadership had projected confidence to its troops, convincing them of superiority and stability. But the events of that night exposed a deeper truth. The belief in invulnerability is the first weakness of any army. The Ukrainian operation targeted not just the physical structure of the base, but the mental structure of command. When the illusion of safety was destroyed, morale collapsed faster than walls hit by explosives. Soldiers on other fronts heard the story within hours, and fear began to spread across units that had once felt secure. This attack became symbolic of a turning point in the war. It showed that traditional power tanks, aircraft, and command posts could be neutralized by precision strikes powered by innovation. It showed that leadership built on pride can be dismantled by leadership built on strategy. The drones did not just destroy a building, they humiliated an ideology. The message was clear: no celebration is safe when your opponent studies, adapts, and evolves faster than you do. As dawn broke over the ruins of the base, smoke still rising from craters and shattered walls, the violence carried a lesson. Warfare is no longer about who has the most weapons, it's about who understands the battlefield better. Ukraine's ability to combine intelligence, timing, and low-cost technology proved more powerful than the confidence of generals sitting in fortified halls. The illusion of invincibility died that night, replaced by a new era where control belongs not to those who celebrate their strength, but to those who understand how fragile it truly is. The strike that night marked more than just another battle. It revealed the rise of a new weapon reshaping the future of war. The Ukrainian FPV drone, once seen as a small tool of reconnaissance, has now become the symbol of asymmetric power on the battlefield. These drones, light, fast, and affordable, are rewriting the rules of engagement. The attack with 30 FPV drones against a well-guarded Russian command base wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated demonstration of how innovation can become the great equalizer. In a war where one side possesses vast resources, heavy artillery, and nuclear capabilities, the other side has learned to fight smart, not big. That's what makes this transformation so powerful. Each of those drones carried not just an explosive but intent. They were piloted manually by trained operators miles away, each one steering through the darkness with precision. Unlike traditional missiles that require massive infrastructure, these FPV drones are small, agile, and guided by human instincts and real-time visuals. The operators could see their targets through live feeds, guiding the drones directly into weak points, vehicles, tents, communications equipment, and even windows. The level of control and accuracy made it nearly impossible for Russian defenses to react effectively. Radar systems failed to detect them, and anti-aircraft guns couldn't lock onto their erratic flight paths. What unfolded was not a battle of machines but of minds, a battle Ukraine was prepared to win. This shift in warfare exposes a critical truth. Technology doesn't just belong to the richest armies anymore, it belongs to those who innovate. Ukraine's development and adaptation of FPV drones came from necessity, not luxury. Engineers, volunteers, and soldiers worked together to transform commercial drones into deadly precision-guided weapons. This grassroots evolution of technology gave the Ukrainian military something Russia didn't expect: agility. Where traditional warfare depends on hierarchies and command chains, drone warfare thrives on decentralization, allowing small teams to strike faster and more efficiently. 30 drones, costing a fraction of a single missile, managed to inflict damage that once required an entire air squadron. The effectiveness of these FPV strikes lies in their unpredictability. They can appear anywhere, anytime, often too low or too fast to be tracked. They redefine what it means to control the sky. In the attack on the Russian base, drones were launched in waves, swarming the area from multiple angles, overwhelming defenses before any organized response could form. It was a show of precision coordination, the kind that only technology combined with training can deliver. When those drones hit their targets, they didn't just destroy buildings, they dismantled the psychological balance of the battlefield. Russian troops saw firsthand how a small buzzing machine could bring destruction that once required an entire fleet. This revolution is about more than weapons, it's about mindset. Ukraine's use of FPV drones shows how adaptability can defeat rigidity. While Russia invested in heavy armor, Ukraine invested in speed, mobility, and intelligence. These drones became symbols of resilience and creativity, proving that war in the modern age belongs to those who innovate faster. The attack on that base was not just tactical, it was ideological. It sent a message to the world that even a smaller nation armed with the right technology and determination can stand against a larger adversary and win key battles. The rise of FPV drones signals a permanent transformation in global warfare. No longer will large-scale armies dominate through sheer size. The new era belongs to precision, speed, and information. Ukraine's successful drone strike demonstrated how inexpensive yet sophisticated tools could achieve strategic victories once thought impossible. It showed that in the chaos of modern war, the side that can adapt technology faster will always have the upper hand. The 30 FPV drones that night were not just machines. They were the embodiment of evolution, turning innovation into the most powerful weapon of all. The strike on the Russian commander's base was more than a tactical victory, it was a message written in fire and steel. While the commanders were celebrating their illusion of security, Ukraine was delivering a strategic lesson in discipline, intelligence, and purpose. Every drone that took flight that night carried not just explosives but intent. It was a reminder that in war, complacency is fatal, and those who celebrate too early often do so in the shadow of defeat. The attack revealed a sharp contrast between the two sides, one indulging in arrogance, the other operating with precision and purpose. What unfolded was not simply a surprise assault but a deliberate statement. While some gather to boast about power, others quietly prepare to use it wisely. Ukraine's drone operators were not acting randomly. The operation was timed and executed with meticulous planning. Intelligence units had studied the base, tracked communication signals, and confirmed the presence of high-ranking Russian officers. This was not a chaotic strike, it was an orchestrated message. When the drones descended, they targeted the very core of the command structure. It was an assault, not on soldiers but on leadership, morale, and authority. The explosion that tore through the command hall did more than cause destruction. It tore apart the illusion that Russian officers were untouchable. The symbolism was clear. Leadership that hides behind celebration and comfort will never stand against leadership built on awareness and adaptability. In that moment, the meaning of warfare shifted from destruction to demonstration. Ukraine wasn't trying to level a ace, it was communicating that control now belongs to those who stay alert, focused, and mobile. The message resonated far beyond the battlefield. To the Russian troops, it showed that their superiors were not invincible. To the international community, it proved that Ukraine's tactical intelligence had reached a level of mastery few expected. And to Ukraine's own people, it was a surge of morale, a moment of pride born from precision. The contrast between a party and an attack symbolized two philosophies of war: arrogance versus awareness, noise versus silence, carelessness versus calculation. The strategic power of this message lies in timing. While Russian officers were raising glasses, their enemy was raising drones. That simple difference captured the essence of modern conflict. Wars are no longer won by who has more soldiers, but by who uses time, data, and discipline more effectively. The strike sent ripples through Russian command networks, forcing them to relocate, reconsider, and rethink their sense of safety. It forced a psychological shift across the front lines. Soldiers began to realize that even far behind the battlefield, they could still be reached. No place was safe and no moment of comfort was guaranteed. Ukraine had transformed fear into a weapon. This event also demonstrated the evolution of warfare into something deeply human, driven by intellect and intent, not just firepower. The drones were tools, but the true weapon was strategy. Behind every strike was a human decision shaped by intelligence, patience, and purpose. The message to the Russian military was unspoken but loud. Ukraine does not strike without reason. Every explosion carries meaning. Every target is chosen to remind the enemy that this is not just a battle for territory, but for dominance in intelligence and adaptability. When the smoke cleared and the fires died, what remained was silence. A silence heavy with understanding. Russia had celebrated its strength, but Ukraine had celebrated its strategy. That difference defined the night. In modern warfare, victory belongs to those who think before they act, who plan before they strike, and who learn faster than their enemy. The Ukrainian attack was not merely revenge. It was a declaration that wars are no longer about who roars louder, but who listens better. The message was received clearly across the world. In this war, strategy will always outlast celebration.